Welcome to our podcast where we encourage you to look for opportunities in your life to see a beautiful view. I'm Candy.
And I'm Paul. Today we're going to be talking about a very sensitive subject that's very near and dear to our hearts.
Yes.
We're going to share our story of pregnancy and infant loss.
Yeah, this episode is going to be a little bit different from our usual.
Yes.
We want to be upfront about the subject, and we understand that subjects like this can be a trigger for some people.
Yes, it can.
But we also know that there's power in sharing a story, and we hope that our story will help others who are facing similar situations.
So, sit back, relax, and let's find the beautiful view together.
We could climb a mighty mountain, float on down a winding river, travel back in time and face our future too. I'm not scared of where I'm going, 'cause I know whose hands I'm holding. Oh, I'd go anywhere as long as you're going to. Well, I'd go anywhere as long as I'm with you.
Welcome to the Beautiful View podcast. We are so glad that you're here.
Yes, we are.
As we mentioned earlier, this episode is going to be a little different than usual. Every once in a while, we like to throw in a really serious subject, something that matters to us.
Yes.
So today we are going to talk about something that is very near and dear to our hearts. October is Pregnancy and Infant Loss Awareness Month. And the 16th of October also happens to be our daughter Lily's 17th heavenly birthday.
We realize this is a very sensitive subject, but we also feel like telling Lily's story can be helpful and start the journey to healing for some who, like we did at the time, feel like they're trying to navigate that road alone.
Yeah. This time of year is always really bittersweet for us. As much as we love the changing seasons, the beautiful fall colors, the cooler temperatures, all of that, there's always a little bit of heartache that lingers this time of year.
Yes.
We've never told our story like this before.
No.
I've blogged about it, but we have never recorded it in audio or video form. So we're really hopeful that this goes well and comes over well.
Yeah, it's it really touches deep, and even just reading over like our notes for the episode is hard. It's hard to go back and relive that time in our lives. But if our story helps just one person out there who's facing similar circumstances, then it's certainly worth sharing.
Oh, yes, absolutely. So that is our hope. Did you know that 1 out of every 4 pregnancies ends in miscarriage? I didn't know that when I miscarried in May of 2006 at 9 weeks. At that point, I had had a perfectly healthy baby with 0 issues. This was baby number 2. Why would I miscarry my second child? I thought something was seriously wrong with me.
Our doctor told us sometimes these things just happen, and that was true, but it didn't make it any easier.
No, it didn't. As soon as we received the okay to try again, we were pregnant with baby Lily. This time, we got through the first trimester with flying colors. I had very little morning sickness.
It's going well.
It was a really, really great pregnancy up to that point. It wasn't until the 20-week checkup that the ultrasound showed an abnormality.
When you go for the ultrasound, it's a time that is kind of exciting. Like
Oh,
you go
it
to
is,
it,
yeah.
and you're like, we're going to see our baby, and it's, you know, so that's what it should be.
Yeah,
And so that's certainly the way that that we entered into that appointment. But then the tech who was doing the ultrasound was like, And then she just kind of kept looking, and then she said, I think we're going to need to go back and see the doctor. So she took us back to our sweet doctor, and she sat down with us, and she gently told us what they had seen, which was that it looked like her diaphragm was not developing correctly.
Yeah.
At that point, they diagnosed her with a congenital diaphragmatic hernia. And that was, there was no answer to what caused it. It was, again, one of those things where you know, the doctors tell you, the medical professionals tell you, sometimes these things just happen.
Yeah. After that, I was sent to specialty doctors who tested for other abnormalities. They did an amniocentesis and, tried to figure out if there were any other congenital issues. But,
Yeah.
I mean, as far as they could tell, the herniated diaphragm was the biggest problem. Everything else was kind of secondary, but unfortunately it meant that her other organs, her lungs, her heart, et cetera, would not form correctly.
Yes.
Doctors gave her a 50-50 chance of life after birth. So we did the only thing we knew to do.
We prayed. Yeah. You carried her full term, which was great because she was the safest in the womb and had the best chance the longer she stayed there. You were supplying the oxygen that she needed in her blood supply, so all was well.
Mm-hmm. As you can imagine, I was a basket case. I was doing my best to trust the Lord for his plan and his purpose in all of this. On October 16th, 2007, she made her appearance into this world at Harris Methodist Hospital in Fort Worth, Texas. It was the best place for her to be because it was right next door to Cook Children's Hospital. And that's where they were hopefully going to be able to perform a life-saving surgery on her after birth.
It was a very quick birth. Mm-hmm. You were determined to bring her into this world as quickly as possible. And right after you gave birth, I followed as they whisked Lily away from Harris Methodist across the bridge to Cook Children's Hospital, where a medical team was ready to receive her. Mm-hmm. It was just so hard to leave you behind.
Yeah. And, though she was born full term, she was born just 10 days earlier than her due date. Mm-hmm. She had the absolute best care at the Children's Hospital. Our precious baby spent her entire 13 days of life hooked up on ECMO life support, waiting a surgery that she was too sick for.
Yeah.
She just couldn't get strong enough to handle a surgery. Her lungs were underdeveloped, and as it turned out, she had a congenital heart defect as well. She was the biggest baby in the NICU, weighing in at 8 pounds.
Yeah, she was.
She looked huge compared to those tiny little preemie babies.
Tiny little ones. The surgery that we were hoping she would eventually be well enough to receive was actually relatively minor. Mm-hmm. They would close the hole in her diaphragm and make sure everything was where it should be. Mm-hmm. Lily would have a hard time through her life, but the hope was that she would be able to get to a point where she could breathe well enough on her own. The problem was that she needed to be healthy enough to go through the surgery, and so she needed to be able to sustain a reasonable O2 level in her blood without life support, and she never got that far.
No. I was broken. In the early morning hours of October 29th, 2007, her fragile little body just couldn't take any more, and she was gone.
We had a room at the Ronald McDonald House next to the hospital, and early in the morning we were called to get there as soon as possible because Lily wasn't doing good. Mm-hmm. We got there to find that they were performing CPR on her tiny body. The nurse in charge was looking at me to tell them what to do, and the look said everything I needed to know. Mm-hmm. I could see that she wasn't recovering, so I simply said, "That's enough. It's okay. Thank you." And she slipped away from us. For the first time, we sat there and held our baby. Mm-hmm. I was completely numb. There's simply nothing you can do to prepare for that moment. And I don't believe there's any way to know how to react properly.
No. We left the hospital with empty arms, an empty car seat in the back seat of the car, with severely broken hearts. I got home to a fully assembled baby bed I wouldn't be using, baby clothes that were no longer needed, and I couldn't bring myself to pack them away. I wasn't sure I would ever recover from such a tragic situation. I went through every single stage of grief. There were days I couldn't get out of bed. There were days I was in complete denial. The whole thing just felt like a huge nightmare that I just wanted to wake up from. I didn't want anyone around me, but at the same time, I didn't want to be by myself. I was just a mess, a completely broken mess. Mm-hmm. Paul didn't know what to do with me. He just basically threw himself into work as I grieved because He just didn't know what to do for me.
Well, there's really nothing that I could do to make the situation any better. The only thing that I knew, and it was really some kind of artificial default, a bad habit that I'd learned over the years from the guys that I worked with, was to just keep going as if nothing had happened. Mm-hmm. I had worked alongside pastors who were going through sickness, family issues, or loss, and were back behind the pulpit the next weekend preaching. I had one pastor once tell me, "Don't call in, crawl in." I thought it was the brave and the right thing to do, to just continue to work as hard as I could, give myself to something worthwhile, and drive through the pain. Of course, I was wrong about that. Mm-hmm. I was presented with options that were designed to sidetrack me from my grief, my family, and my wife. And my biggest regret was I was not there for you. The great comfort was that we had such a supportive community, as you said.
Yes,
I mean, we just really had some great friends around us. They reached out, they brought food, cards, gifts, and I know that there were so many people who were praying for us. We felt very, very loved.
Yes, absolutely. In my mind, though, I should just accept what happened because God's in control, right?
Yeah.
You know, so many people have said to me, "You are so strong. You know, God never gives us more than we can handle." Can I just say, I hate that phrase.
It's not very practical.
I couldn't handle it.
No.
There are some days I still can't handle it.
Mm-hmm. Even 17 years later.
Yeah, I know. I know they meant well and even meant it as a compliment to me, but it just isn't true. I couldn't handle going to the church where we had our funeral service.
No.
Where Paul was also on staff. I couldn't handle it in the parking lot when I saw a new mom getting her baby out of her car seat. I couldn't handle it at the grocery store when the very innocent cashier asked me how my day was going. I couldn't handle it when my, at the time, 4-year-old daughter, Emily, asked me why her baby sister had to die. There is nothing in life that prepares you for that kind of thing. Nothing.
No.
I know that you process things differently than I do. So how do you feel like that period of time affected you? What were some of the things that you struggled with?
Well, after you let me know that we couldn't go back to a building that just reminded you of our loss, I found something that, as a guy, I could fix. I could fix this issue. So I applied for a job at a larger church in a neighboring city, a job that would take more of my time and would emphasize my technical abilities rather than my pastoral abilities. I just didn't think that there could be a future for me in ministry after my faith had been so fundamentally challenged. Lights, cameras, production. I could do that. I could do that without having to deal with my faith. I was good at that. If something didn't work, I could fix it. I couldn't fix my heart. I couldn't fix my wife's heart or my children's hearts, but I could fix this.
I know many people have experienced something similar to this. I didn't necessarily know that at the time because it just wasn't talked about.
Right.
Miscarriage, stillbirth, infant loss. In my mind, those were things that happened like once in a blue moon to someone I didn't know. I just felt so alone. Depression and anxiety overwhelmed me. We lived out of town, away from family. It was so hard. I spent a lot of time doing things that helped me process the whole situation. I scrapbooked about her. I journaled my thoughts, my feelings, and my prayers. All of those things were helpful to me, but gosh, it was so hard.
As a dad, I bear a responsibility for my family. Losing a child just makes you feel so helpless. What more could I have done? I'm supposed to try everything, and we really did. We had the best help that there was available to us, but it just wasn't enough. Accepting that some very serious things are simply outside of our control was the hardest thing. And to know that as a man of faith, I was supposed to trust God for those things, and that it didn't result in her recovering was so tough too.
And I felt guilty for not being stronger for my family. I felt guilty for falling apart on unsuspecting people. I felt guilty for being angry. My faith was so big. I served the Lord faithfully. I lived my life for Him. What did I ever do to deserve this? Why did this happen to me? Well, we are about to celebrate Lily's 17th heavenly birthday this month, and I still don't fully know the answers to those questions. But here are some things that we do know.
Yes. First of all, life isn't always fair. No. We live in a broken world. We know that our God is sovereign, and our faith is big.
Yes.
We had numerous opportunities to share our story with other hurting parents after this happened to us. We treasure our children even more than we did before. Time does help, but the hurt never goes away. It's still hard sometimes to answer the "how many children do you have?" question. I was asked this just the other day, and I answered 4. I should have answered 5, and I didn't. And I don't know why. It's also okay to ask for help. Sometimes admitting that you're not strong enough is the best path to recovery. To remember that God never gives us more than He can handle. Not what we can handle, but more than He can handle. He is there for us. And that life is precious and our time with our loved ones is a gift from Him. This world is not our home.
Right. It took me years to get past the anxiety attacks that followed the experience of losing my baby. I was on and off a low-dosage anxiety medication for years. I hate to depend on medication to make me okay, but I'm also so grateful for it at the same time. There was a time that I couldn't be in public without having an anxiety attack and breaking out in hives.
Up till very recently.
Yeah, I sometimes still do. I would not be surprised. I put off talking to my doctor about it for way too long. I didn't want to appear to be weak because I was supposed to be a living testimony of faith, hope, and all of that. When I finally told her what was happening at one of my annual appointments, I broke out in hives when I was telling her that I had been breaking out in hives. She was so kind the way she handled it.
She's like, yes, I can see that.
Well, that's apparent. I just will forever be grateful to her for the way that she handled that whole situation.
She is a wonderful doctor and a wonderful person.
Yes.
I was also on medication for anxiety and depression for a long, long time. When we started full-time RVing, we were so relieved that we didn't have to be around people all of the time. That was one of the attractive things for us. At least we didn't have to appear like we had it all together, if sometimes we didn't. The anonymity that RVing provides, if you want it, is almost total. You're in new places all the time where no one knows you.
Yeah, I didn't have to worry about breaking out in hives during a meeting, at church, or any other place. It was such a freeing experience. What started out as a hiding experience turned into a healing experience.
It did.
It allowed me time and space to heal in a healthy environment. I needed time to be okay, to draw closer to my Savior, to learn to rest in His embrace again and trust Him again, and to learn to walk by faith in every aspect of my life.
Yes. That time was also good for me. I know that's when we began to read through the Bible over and over again, get back to the source and find out what we actually believed. And it's interesting to me that during that time of RVing and traveling around the country that we've come across so many people that have been in similar situations to us. Whether that was in full-time ministry or infant loss, those situations have occurred over and over again. I thought that it would be easy for us to just drive off into the sunset and live the rest of our days on the road. But when it actually came to it, I had a really hard time leaving the area that we lived in. We gradually took trips further away, but the furthest we made it that first couple of years was to Ohio for the summer, where my friend ran a youth camp, which was ideal because we were going somewhere where we knew people, and they gave us a safe place to be, and we'll forever be grateful for that. So we helped out there at the youth camp.
Yeah.
But it wasn't until the second year of being there that when our time came to leave, I finally had the courage to get behind the steering wheel of our truck and just go. And that's when we headed for the West Coast.
Yeah.
We were both pretty messed up emotionally and mentally for quite a while. And I would say that we still bear some scars from that whole experience even now.
Sure. I remember a major milestone in our journey where we both felt like we turned a corner. It was 2018. We had both been off of medication for a while at that point.
Yeah.
And we attended a local farm-to-table event in our now home of Bellevue, Iowa.
Yeah.
We knew no one here at that time.
We didn't.
We knew the dinner would be served family style at round tables, and we would be sitting with people that we didn't know, but they were probably going to talk to us, and they very quickly would pick up on our accents and realize that we were not from around here.
These are foreigners. Yeah. So we felt a little out of place, and a little nervous, I would say.
Yeah. Oh, yes. Nervously excited.
Excited.
Yeah.
So but we were determined that we were going to go through with it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Our conversations beforehand were about what we should wear and how we wanted to get there in plenty of time to get a seat, but not too early so that it would be awkward, and just all of those kinds of things. I remember that like nervous-sided feeling.
And we're both somewhat foodies.
Yeah.
And so that was getting us excited, like what the menu was going to be.
Yeah.
And I told you to pick our table because I didn't want to be responsible yet again for picking the wrong table like I usually do. And you did well.
Thank you. We really had the absolute best time.
Yes,
we made new friends. We enjoyed the delicious food and drinks. And I didn't even break out in hives. Hallelujah.
In this episode, we wanted to share our story and our hearts, but we also wanted to encourage you if you are walking through a tough time, or if you have walked through a tough time in the recent past. Mental health is often a tough subject, and it's even sometimes frowned upon, especially in Christian circles. Sometimes life deals us some really crappy circumstances, for want of a better word. Even for people who love the Lord with all of their heart, soul, and mind, sometimes bad things happen, and the healing process just takes time.
Yeah. No matter what circumstances we find ourselves faced with, there are 3 promises that you can cling to, all of which were crucial to my healing and continue to be.
Yes.
Number 1 is, you are not alone and God has not left you.
The Lord is the one who goes ahead of you. He will be with you. He will not fail you or forsake you. Do not fear or be dismayed. From Deuteronomy 31, verse 8.
And one of my favorite scriptures that I've clung to so many times now is found in Psalm 34:18. The Lord is near to the brokenhearted and saves the crushed in spirit.
The second promise is this. You can come to him because God is well acquainted with grief.
Yes. Come to me, all you who are weary and burdened, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and humble in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light. Matthew 11:28 through 30.
And in 1 Peter 5, verse 7, cast all your anxiety on him because he cares for you.
The third promise is, he works all things for the good.
And we know that for those who love God, all things work together for good for those who are called according to his purpose. Romans 8, verse 28.
And in Psalm 145, verses 13 and 14, it says, the Lord is faithful. in all his words and kind in all his works. The Lord upholds all who are failing and raises up all who are bowed down.
As we do every year, we will celebrate Lily's life on her birthday. We will celebrate the life she lived, the life she touched, the growth, the victories, and the hope that we have of our eternal life through Jesus Christ.
Yes. My guess is that this subject was placed on our hearts to share because someone else needed it today.
Yes.
Someone who is in the trenches of their own grief or heartache. So if that's you, know that you are not alone.
You're not.
You have permission to grieve. You don't have to hold it together. And prayer is your greatest tool. Journal. Give yourself a little time and space to heal. Talk to your doctor if you need to.
And as always, you can email us at beautifulviewpod@gmail.com. Though we can't offer professional advice, we would be happy to lift you up in prayer or be a listening ear.
Yeah.
If you have listened this far and are not walking through a season like this right now, remember to be kind to people. You never know what they're going through.
Yeah. I have learned to look at our life experience as a calling.
Yeah.
I know that sounds crazy, but I read something the other day on Facebook that I want to share with you that fits this exact sentiment. It was written by a lady named Hannah Williamson, and I think she has a YouTube channel or something. But it says, "Your calling is going to crush you. If you are called to mend the brokenhearted, you are going to wrestle with a broken heart. If you are called to heal God's little ones, you are going to experience your own share of trauma. If you are called at all to the lost and broken of this world, the throwaways, to preach and teach the gospel, you will be sifted for the wisdom that anoints your message. If you are called to empower, your self-esteem will be attacked. Your success is hard fought. Your calling will come with spiritual warfare and a sifting. Both are necessary for your mantle to be authentic, humble, and powerful. Your crushing won't be easy because your assignment is not easy, and you can't minister powerfully what you haven't walked out." Listen to that sentence again. Your crushing won't be easy because your assignment is not easy, and you can't minister powerfully what you haven't walked out. When you're feeling the weight of it coming down on you, run to the Father who longs to be your comfort. Let him whisper your true identity over you while resting under the shadow of his wings. Position yourself against his heartbeat. Let him renew your strength and set your eyes forward.
Wow, that's so powerful.
Yeah.
There's something special about being able to empathize with someone because you've experienced what they're going through.
Yeah. We say it all the time. Life isn't always easy.
No, it's not.
It definitely throws us some curveballs sometimes. When we go through hard times, it can be really difficult sometimes to see the beautiful view.
Yeah.
But even when life seems really hard and dark, if you can find a little spark of light and try to think of 3 things every day that you're grateful for, it's not magic. It's not an instant fix, but eventually, you will begin to see the beautiful views again. There's a little saying that I read the other day that I thought kind of fit this, and it says, "No olives, no oil, no grapes, no wine. Your oil is not cheap, my friend."
Your experiences and your story have the power to help or encourage someone else who is walking through that similar valley. We all have a calling that's bigger than ourselves.
Yes.
If we look at the hard things we face in life as preparation for our calling, it makes the beautiful views a little easier to find.
Yeah.
Thank you for joining us today. We hope that you've been encouraged today, even though this is a really hard topic. We pray that sharing our story with you either helps you feel less alone in what you're going through, or it makes you more sympathetic to what others are going through. What are we going to talk about next time?
Well, we hosted a group of seminary students in our home a few weeks back.
Yes, that
and
was
they
great.
asked us a question that has kind of hung with us for the last several weeks. They asked us, is this place sacred?
Yeah.
So we are going to call our next episode A Sacred Place. We're going to talk about what that means and why it's important.
It's going to be a great topic to talk about. I can't wait to dig into it.
Yeah.
And while we prepare to bring you that episode, maybe go back and listen to one of our previous episodes. We've gotten ourselves into some real pickles while we were traveling on the road. I was like, there's a parking lot there, and I just dove for it. So we hit this slope going into the parking lot, and the truck didn't have enough juice to get up that hill.
Yeah.
And we were stuck.
So it was a Friday evening, and all the locals were headed to the high school playoff football game in town. And they were all having to navigate around the back of our rig that was stuck in the road. So on that really busy road.
We just couldn't move. Couldn't move backwards because we were dug into the driveway. Couldn't move forwards.
There was no way we could make it around the corner.
Nope.
So I looked up the local non-emergency number for the police department.
They sent out a very nice, very calm police officer to help us out of this pickle.
So take a trip with us if you dare in the episode entitled Bloopers and Pickles in your podcast feed or the Beautiful View YouTube channel. If you know of someone who would enjoy this podcast, please point them in our direction. Visit us at Beautiful View Podcast on Facebook or Instagram. Share our posts or share the link to our podcast. Also, you can watch a video recording
Hello.
of our most recent episodes on YouTube. The link to that is also in our show notes.
Yes. Also, we would really appreciate it if you would follow, subscribe to, or leave a review for us on either YouTube or your favorite podcasting platform. These things are completely free for you to do, but it really helps new people find the Beautiful View podcast.
Yeah, and shout out once again to the Hopeful Few for the catchy theme song on our podcast.
Thanks, guys.
You can check out more of their music on Spotify or Apple Music. The links are in our show notes.
And just a reminder, please consider joining the Beautiful View Patreon. This helps us keep these episodes coming and cover our costs. Memberships are only $5 a month. The link to sign up is in our show notes and is also on our social media accounts. And we have new stickers now.
Yay! We do have new stickers and they look awesome. And
Yes.
our already members can expect to see those very soon in your mailbox.
Yes.
We hope you have a great day and always remember to keep an eye open for opportunities in life to see a beautiful view.
Yes.
We could climb a mighty mountain, float on down a winding river, travel back in time and face our future too. Oh, I'm not scared of where I'm going, 'cause I know whose hands I'm holding. Oh, I'd go anywhere as long as you're going too. And I'd go anywhere as long as I'm with you. Yeah, I'd go anywhere as long as I'm with you.